It's 6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Malavarachi, read by Sounditavam. The IMF says Sri Lanka and China independent negotiations in debt restructuring acceptable. The President will present the budget on November 13th. Heavy rains are experienced in the Mathura district again, causing floods in the Nilvala River Basin. The NBRO issues landslide early warnings for several areas in 4 districts. Today is the United Nations Day. In foreign news, UK Prime Minister says hospital blast likely caused by missile launched from Gaza. And in sports news, Afghanistan shock Pakistan by 8 wickets win. The IMF Senior Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, Peter Brewer, says the IMF is happy even if Sri Lanka and China negotiate independently, so long as there is even-handed treatment in debt restructuring. He mentioned that the IMF took note of a tentative agreement between Sri Lanka and the Export-Import Bank of China and will analyse the details when received. The IMF Senior Mission Chief urged all official creditors to move forward and agree on an appropriate debt treatment in line with the financing assurances they provided. Brewer was speaking at the press briefing of the first review of Sri Lanka's extended fund facility arrangement. The budget for the coming year is to be presented to Parliament by President Ranil Wickremesinghe as the Finance Minister on the 13th of next month. After the presentation of the budget by the President, the debate on the second reading of the budget for 2024 will begin on the 14th of next month. The debate on the second reading of the budget will be held for 7 days, from the 14th to the 21st of November. After that, the voting on the second reading of the budget is scheduled to be held on November 21st at 5:30 p.m. The third reading of the budget is scheduled on Wednesday, November 23rd, and the related debate is scheduled to be held until December 13th. The voting related to the Budget Committee stage debate is scheduled to be held on December 13th at 5:30 p.m. Heavy rains are being experienced in the Mathura district again. The water level of the Nilvala River Basin is rising once again due to the inclement weather. The Mathura District Secretary Y. Wickramasiri says that floods are occurring in the Akuressa, Athuraliya and Mulatiyana areas once more. The Southern Province Education Authority state that several schools have been closed due to heavy rains in the province at present. Several schools in Akuressa, Deniyaya, Mulatiyana and Valasmulla have been closed. Also, all schools in the Moravaka Educational Division have also been closed. The Southern Province Education Secretary Ranjit Yapa said zonal education directors have been empowered to decide on the closing of schools due to adverse weather. Several roads in Akuressa and Moravaka have been blocked due to the fall of earth mounds. Meanwhile, the Irrigation Department requests people residing in the low-lying areas along the banks of the Urubuku Oya basin in the Hamathura district to remain cautious as the Muthurajavela reservoir has reached spill level. The department's Director of Irrigation, Engineer SPC Shugishwara, says that 3 sluice gates of the Muruthwela reservoir are opened at present. He further stated that due to this, it is imperative that the people residing in the low-lying areas on both sides of the Urubuk Oya below the Muruthwela reservoir pay high attention to this situation. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Cherished companion of microfinance banking, Samurdhi Community Bank.
The National Building Research Organization has issued landslide warnings to 8 districts due to heavy showers across the country. The NBRO issued landslide warnings to several divisional secretariats in the Badulla, Gaul, Hambantota, Kalutara, Kandy, Matara, Nuwara Eliya and Ratnapura districts. The warning is effective until 3 p.m. today. The NBRO warns area residents to be vigilant of landslides and earth slips in these areas. 99 families in the Haldumulla area have been relocated to temporary shelters due to the risk of landslides. Today is the United Nations Day. The United Nations Day is an annual commemorative day reflecting the official creation of the United Nations on 24th October 1945. In 1947, the United Nations General Assembly declared 24th October the anniversary of the Charter of the United Nations to be devoted to making known to the people of the world the aims and achievements of the United Nations and to gaining their support for its work. Sri Lanka joined the United Nations in 1955. The United Nations Association of Sri Lanka held the 78th United Nations Day celebration recently at the Sri Lanka Medical Association Auditorium, Vijayaramamawa at the Colombo 7. The parliamentarians, diplomatic corps, teachers and students of the UN Study Circle and the UNA members graced the ceremony. Erecting statues of God Kataragama Tewani Amma and Valli Amma will take place at the SLBC Botry premises today at the auspicious time of 9:30 a.m. These statues of gods and goddesses have been brought to the country from India. They will be placed in a special closet erected at the SLBC premises with a special offering to the gods. This has been organised under the guidance of the chairman of the SLBC, Hudson Samrasinghe. That concludes local news.
Your closest ally in microfinance banking. The front runner in uplifting low-income households, extending a hand to those aspiring to thrive. Your very own financial institution, Samurdhi Community Bank, with a presence of 1,089 branches throughout the island. Your closest ally in microfinance banking. Your steadfast financial partner, Samurdhi Community Bank.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Veda.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has decided to pay close attention to the commercial banks and financial institutions that have not yet reduced bank interest rates, the State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siamalapitiya said. He said the decision was taken according to the circular issued by the Central Bank over reducing bank interest rates. Caught, even though the commercial banks had to face some problematic situations in the payment of interest for the long-term deposits obtained when the bank interest rates were high in the past, the people who are under severe pressure expect the commercial banks to work according to the bank interest rates issued by the central bank, unquote. That came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Veda.
On to Watchlight, the general public have been cautioned over the increased spread of 3 infectious diseases in the island as a result of the prevailing inclement weather conditions. The public have been warned of the spread of eye diseases, diarrhea and respiratory diseases, often associated with high body temperature, and are therefore urged to take all possible precautionary measures while also paying attention to their personal health habits. Speaking further in this regard, the chairman of the Public Health Inspectors Union, Upul Rohana, emphasized that personal hygiene plays an integral role in controlling the spread of the aforementioned illnesses. That came to you in Watchlight. Moving on to a bulletin of world news. Making headlines this morning, UK's Prime Minister says hospital blast likely caused by missile launched from Gaza. Iran warns Israel to stop war in Gaza or region will go out of control. Biggest cervical cancer drug advance in 20 years hailed. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says the blast at Gaza's Al-Ali hospital last week was likely caused by a missile fired from within Gaza. He says British intelligence believes the explosion was likely caused by a missile or part of one. And he tells the House of Commons the misreporting of the blast had a negative effect in the region. Hamas blamed the incident on an Israeli strike, but Israel said a misfiring Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket from within Gaza was responsible. Iran's Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian has warned Israel that the Middle East could spiral out of control if it does not stop strikes on Gaza. He said the US was also to blame for providing military support to Israel. Hours later, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned troops his people were in a battle for their lives and said the war against Hamas was do or die. Iran supports both Hamas, which attacked Israel 2 weeks ago, killing 1,400 people, and Lebanon's Hezbollah. Scientists say they have made the biggest breakthrough in treating cervical cancer in 20 years, using a course of existing cheap drugs ahead of usual radiotherapy treatment. Trial findings revealed at the ESMO conference show the approach cut the risk of women dying from the disease or the cancer returning by 35%. Cancer Research UK, which funded the work, called the results remarkable. It hopes clinics will soon start doing the same for patients. Cervical cancer affects thousands of women each year in the UK, many in their early 30s. Back to the headlines of the world news. UK Prime Minister says hospital blast likely caused by Israel-launched missile from Gaza. Iran warns Israel to stop war in Gaza or region will go out of control. And the biggest cervical cancer drug advance in 20 years hailed. That concludes this bulletin of world news.
Development news.
A pill for dengue fever developed by Johnson & Johnson appeared to protect against a form of the virus in a handful of patients in a small human challenge trial in the United States, according to data presented by the company. There are currently no specific treatments for dengue, a growing disease threat, the company said, ahead of the presentation of the data at the American Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene annual meeting in Chicago. It is the first ever to show antiviral activity against dengue. Manik Swan-Luke, who oversees emerging pathogens, research for J&J's Janssen division, said of the drug. That came to you in development news. And we move on to sports news next.
Sports news is brought to you by Shakti. Refresh your mind and body with Shakti Energy Drink. 350 rupees only. Available at island-wide leading groceries and supermarkets. Shakti. Taste the power.
Afghanistan produced a second stunning win at the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup 2023 to beat Pakistan for the first time ever in a men's ODI, winning by 8 wickets in Chennai yesterday. Set a target of 283 to win, Afghanistan's top 3 all hit half-centuries as they produced a high-quality run chase to reach the target with 8 wickets in hand and an over to spare. Ramanullah Gurbaz set the tempo early with a 53-ball 65 alongside fellow opener Ibrahim Zadran 87 before the excellent Ramat Shah and Astamatullah Shahidi finished the job with crucial contributions of 77 and 48. Afghanistan, who stunned defending champions England earlier in the tournament, and Pakistan both now have 2 wins and 3 losses from their 5 group games. That came to you in sports news. We take a look at business news next.
Shakti. Refresh your mind and body with Shakti Energy Drink. 350 rupees only. Available at island-wide leading groceries and supermarkets. Shakti. Taste the power.
Go ekakthiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dagapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Vietnam's President Vo Va Thuong had discussions over closer trade and cultural links at a meeting in China. The leaders engaged in extensive discussions on establishing economic and trade links between the countries, as well as Sri Lanka's agricultural modernization program, a statement from the President's media office said. That came to you in business news, economic news to follow.
Business news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekakthiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dagapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
In economic news, Sri Lanka's fuel imports are unlikely to be disturbed by the escalating conflict in the Middle East after fighting started in Gaza, as the country has already secured tenders for supply until June next year. But there could be uncertainties, the State Minister of Power and Energy, D.V. Chanaka, said. The escalation of violence in Gaza has raised concerns over continuous oil supply and possible price hikes in the global fuel prices. Both of these countries are not crude-producing nations, Chanaka told reporters in Colombo at a briefing referring to warring Israel and Palestine.